Hey everyone, welcome back to PintheQ Podcast, episode 17. We are here in Neptune City, New Jersey, which is in Monmouth County. And I'm here with Don Colarusso.
Yes.
Past chief. 32 years this man has on. 32 years been doing his job. Long time, bro. And you know what's good about that? I say this every episode, but for 32 years on, you have so much to offer these new firefighters walking in the door now that can look at you and say, hey, how did you do it, right? And not only that, but you have a training school. So it's the best of both worlds, in my opinion. But again, episode 17, we're going to be talking about a couple things, but mainly we're going to be talking about training, which I think is so important now. And you invited me to your facility here, which is all hands fire equipment and training. So I got to see a little bit about everything you're doing here. So Don, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I appreciate being here.
I'm happy to be here.
So we'll kick this off, and I'll ask a pretty basic question: is how did you become a firefighter? How did this all start for you?
Well, as a young guy, I knew some people that kind of influenced me a little bit to to join the local volunteer fire department. So at the time, I went to what I thought was the busiest place, which I ended up for a while. I don't know if it still is or not, but it was the busiest company in the town. So
And what company is that?
Glendola Fire Company,
Okay.
up in northern end of Wall,
Okay.
north and west.
So Wall, Monmouth County.
Right.
Okay. And that was 87.
1987.
Things were a little different back then.
Yeah.
Definitely not what it was today. So tell me what it was like to join at age 18.
Well, it was, of course, it was a little intimidating, I guess, like it is now.
Sure.
So that hasn't changed. But, listen, the guys were very welcoming. I'd already known some guys that were there. And, they were getting fires and getting runs. And so it was, it was exciting as a young guy.
Sure.
I mean, I was still in high school. And,
soaking it all in.
yeah, it's just, I remember, I think, one of the first calls I went to was a car fire on Route 138, and I got to the firehouse, and I was just standing there like I didn't know what to do. And this old timer, Joe McKelvey, he's like, "You coming or not?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess."
Am I loud?
So yeah, that was a pretty memorable experience. Being like the first incident.
Right. And I'm sure your leg was shaking and you were freaking out. Like,
yeah, I really don't have too much recollection of, I just remember that small snapshot.
Yeah.
But it was some of those guys. I think back at how lucky I was to know some of those guys.
Yeah.
At Dumont, Joe McKelvey. Those really, really good, solid guys.
And you think back, and you just said 32 years, and you remember their names like that. That says a lot.
Yeah.
Obviously, those people had an impact on you at a young age that
Right.
you remember them, and that's what the fire service is so good at. If we don't have everything figured out, the one thing we did figure out is that we do a great job honoring our past members and keeping their memory alive. It's all about the tradition, I think,
Right.
and keeping those people alive. Their memory. We don't. Now we call everyone mentors, right? That's
Right.
like the big word now, firemanship, mentoring, brotherhood.
Everything's got a title.
Right? But back then, I guess they were our mentors. We just didn't have labels for them.
Right.
Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So people steered you. They did all those things again without a label. They took
Right.
you under their wing. They showed you things. I remember a fire I went to in Shark River Manor. It was like Shore Drive or one of those streets up off Belmore Boulevard, and it was a daytime fire. It was a small single family dwelling, and it was a fire in the rear. And I don't really know timetables whether I was through the academy or not, but I went in on the line, and I remember as we went in, one of the boss who was with me told one of the senior guys, or one of the older guys, go in the back, and when I tell you to, I want you to break out the back porch window. They had the jalousie windows. And, we went down the hallway, we got to, and it was no severe situation. It wasn't like, heat banking you down to the floor and all those things.
Right.
But it was a great learning experience. We went down the hall, got to where we had to go, saw the fire, opened up the nozzle. At the same time, I hear all the glass breaking. And that was as a young guy, it was a really great learning experience about how, we locate the fire and
Yeah.
we have that synchronized attack, and, seeing everybody kind of work in a coordinated fashion and communicating and all those things. So it was, that's another memorable incident that,
Yeah.
kind of stuck with me about this is how you do it. And from a very easy example,
Yeah.
it wasn't high stress. It wasn't, incredibly dangerous, those type of things. So it was stuck with me.
But that's good. I mean, that's, again, back to that young training, young mentoring, that you had those guys that are willing to show you things and teach you things quick on the fly. And I remember, starting around that time too, it was different, right? So they told you to do something, you just did it.
Right.
It wasn't like today where,
Yeah.
A lot of people will ask certain questions, or why are we doing this? Or do you think we should do it this way? And it just didn't happen back then. I mean, we just did what we were told.
Yeah. You just paired it with somebody, or just followed the guys,
Yeah.
and you did what you were told, and but they helped you. They in my experience and where I was at, everybody was very helpful.
I had the very same experience where I started. I mean, I was very fortunate that we all really had good leaders, good mentors, people that wanted to see you do well. When they weren't playing jokes on you or pranks, they were trying to help you make sure you stay alive and stuff. So that, I agree with that.
Right.
So at age 18, you started moving your way up, right? So what was the first position you got at Glendola?
I believe it was 1993, I became lieutenant.
Okay.
And I was put in charge of training.
Tell me what that was like.
Well, I mean, listen, it was a different time back then. I aspired to move through the line, and I put a lot of time and effort into it. I tried to do the best I could, and try to learn, and try to put together good drills and offer training. I mean, I look back at those times now, and
You took
I
my
was
next,
a little young.
you took my next question.
I elevated through the ranks,
Right.
and again, I mean, I tried, and I'm sure I did some good things, and I did some not so good things. As a young guy, probably could have used a little bit more experience and all those things, but it was a good group of guys. They supported you. They supported all the officers, and we were busy, so we were getting experience. All the guys were getting experience. We were going to fires.
That's good.
We had 10 miles of the Garden State Parkway, so you're going to car accidents, and you're going to car fires, and we had an airport, so you'd get the plane crash every now and then, and it was a very dynamic response area.
Yeah.
You had a lot of things getting thrown at you. So
That's good.
from that perspective, a lot of years of 17 years as an active member there, a lot of experience.
Yeah, 17 years there.
Yeah.
Wow. So after lieutenant, what next?
I progressed through the normal ranking process. It was lieutenant, captain. At the time, they only had a lieutenant. There was no first or second, like most places have.
Right.
So
did you guys have a deputy chief or just an assistant
chief?
chief?
It was four ranks. It was
no kidding.
Lieutenant, captain, assistant chief, and chief.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is a little different than most places, honestly.
Yeah, and I think it's changed now. I think they have a first and second lieutenant, so it's
okay.
There's another piece into that.
Right.
But
so you became chief of the department, right?
1999 to 2000.
Tell me what that was like, because now it's changing for you.
Well, listen, I had a lot of pride. I was excited to do it. Again, the guy. Listen, it's a make and break deal based on the people that you have.
100%.
So
100%.
There was a lot of really great guys there, and you still had those senior guys coming around, like I had experienced, back in 87, 88, 89.
Right.
So
it's perfect.
it was a good house, a lot of energy and enthusiasm, and again, I mean, listen, the biggest thing about a firehouse is the amount of running you're doing. If you have a lot of runs and you're having fires,
yeah.
It takes a lot of the other things, a lot of the negative energy out. Because that's why you're there. You thrive on that kind of stuff.
Right. Unless you have a busy house, I agree. And the only time it's different is if the culture in your company is just so put together well that you're not having those problems. But typically speaking, if it's a slower house, more problems.
Right.
Which is, I think that's going away a little bit now. It's getting better, but that's how it used to be for sure.
Right.
I would agree with that. So as chief, thinking back, what was one of the things you wanted to change as chief when you became chief? Was there one thing that you said, like, hey, when I become chief, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to change. Was there anything like that for you?
I don't really recall all that much. I think one of the big things is I just wanted to promote the company, with a real positive image. I took a lot of pride in being chief. I took the time with people if we were at an incident, whether it was an alarm or whether it was a fire, to talk to them and explain to them what's going on. But I think it was just the image. I just wanted to promote that positive image of the company.
Thinking back your time as chief, was there anything that you recall that you took away from that and you're proud of? Anything that, I know you're proud in general being a fire chief, right? Because every day comes with new challenges. Every day you're, putting out fires, so to say, within the company and stuff. Was there any one thing or that happened that you could say, looking back, hey, I'm glad I was part of that?
Well, I don't know if I know one thing, but I don't think I was chief at the time. It was before that. But there's 3 fire districts in Wall. And I remember in like 1986, 87, so I was captain or assistant chief. I probably was assistant chief. And we got together and we put together a fast team policy. And I would like to think, I have the original paperwork, so I know that I drafted the first copy. I was very instrumental in that process along with other guys. But I know that I pushed that really hard.
That's an important thing, man. That's great.
And at the time, we were taking kind of that concept from the New York City Fire Department, where it wasn't so much a big thing down this way. So that initial kind of push and entry of that mindset and program into the fire service in this area was a little bit of a challenge. But having 3 districts on board, that was a big part of the challenge. Was
especially in 1996, 97, right? Because everyone wanted to stay in their own sandbox then. Right. So that is an achievement. I agree.
And from that point, from the onset of that program, like for me personally, I took a lot of personal interest in that, and we can talk about some of the training that I've gone through and with a lot of my close friends and guys that I'm firefighters with now. We still do that training, but we'd gone through. We brought a couple of guys from the New York City Fire Department down, Donnie Haight, who just retired as the chief of special operations, and a guy by the name of Sal Marchese. They came down and spent some time with us in a vacant building, and we did a lot of intense survival and rapid intervention training. This is back in the 90s, man. Yeah, back maybe it was just after 2000, somewhere in that time period.
Wow.
But we did some really great training with them.
That's high-speed training today.
Yeah,
right.
We were
that's pretty phenomenal back in '97.
Yeah, back then we were doing that training, and
wow.
That's kind of where it began, and then I might be getting a little bit ahead of myself, but
okay.
There's
no script. So.
Me and some of the guys in my company that I'm in now in Neptune, Frank Suffin, Joe Morrow, Dan Harker, Bob McDonald. We went down to Florida.
What company is that? So
Unexcelled Fire Company, okay. Station 4 in Neptune. We went down to Clearwater, Florida, and took firefighter survival and a rescue school down there for 3 years in a row. And that was using our own money. We weren't sent there by our department or anything. We spent our own money. We went down there.
That's called commitment.
Yeah, 3 days of training, and it was, the lineup was Paul Hashake and Joe Kanowski, Bruce Newberry, Ray McGuire, Dave Marmon. Bob Morris, Captain Morris. Just like
phenomenal
top
lineup.
level guys, and it was just like, and it wasn't just, it was 24 hours. It wasn't like you went to class and you left. The show continued. You went out to dinner, you socialized, and it was just the volumes of information and just sharing that you can sit with these guys for hours and just the experience and the stories, and it just like you thrive for it. It's
when we talk to guys and girls today and we tell them we emphasize training. train. Make sure you go out there. Make sure you get these conferences, these seminars and everything. Tell me what that meant to you, being
Oh
involved
my
in that.
God, it was the world to me. I mean, it changed. I mean, going through those classes, bringing in those guys. You know, you're talking about. I mean, in my opinion, you're talking about some of the best firefighters in the world.
No,
I mean, if the world was going to end and you had
agree.
to pair yourself up with some people, you know, those are the kind of guys you want to go with.
Absolutely.
You know, it's just their level of commitment to being the best, and it was just great. I mean, guys like Frankie Fee and all these guys are just. You just want to be around them. If you're in the fire service and you're truly committed to that kind of stuff, those are the guys you want to be around, because it just like bleeds out of them.
Absolutely.
You know, sweats out
Yeah,
of them,
absolutely. I mean, when you're in the same room with guys on Rescue One, I mean, they are outstanding.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I mean, you can't put a price tag on that kind of training. I mean,
Right.
whatever you paid was worth it in its weight in gold.
Right.
Just to make those, just to have that opportunity to be in the same room with these guys and be able to pick their brain a little bit, and take that back to your department. So after you had the training, you go back to your own company, and now you're able to offer that to your own people.
Right. Well, I mean, it just grew from there. You know, we went to that training.
There's that train.
There it is.
I love it.
There it is. Set your watch, man. So, we came back. We shared it with our guys. We shared it with other departments. And at the time, I had all hands fire. We weren't doing so much with the training. We were kind of tinkering with it a little bit.
Okay.
But, as the years went on, the guys I mentioned, Joe Morrow, Dan Harker, Frank Suffin, those were the core guys in Unexo Fire Company who, we were training our own people in the company. We had a RIT team. They also had a RIT team before I got there.
Okay.
So when I joined there, we just amped it up a little bit and just kept pushing through and training regularly and continuing to bring these people in, and you get an acquired structure. We'd bring a guy down to help us with it. So
that's good.
Yeah.
And
we just kept bringing that information to us. We just couldn't get enough of it. So
no, it's awesome, man. It's good stuff. And then you're also developing lifetime friendships too.
Right.
It's not just the fire service, but you're also developing friendships. I mean, one of the most exciting things you told me today was your excitement on telling me the people you've have these relationships with now, these friends of yours that you've made over the years. And, off camera, you were showing me books with people in there that and you've had opportunity to meet through FDIC or just in training classes like the one in Florida. I mean, that obviously sticks with you and you're passionate about it. I can tell when I talk to you, I can see it in your eyes. I can see that you're passionate about these experiences you've had. So explain a little bit to me or to my audience what that means to you as far as being able to get out of your comfort zone a little bit and seeing other places, meeting new people.
It means the world. When I can sit in my office and receive a phone call from a guy and just generate a conversation, and at the end of the conversation, you're like buddies,
Yeah.
Yeah. And then to then at some point meet them, whether you meet them at FDIC or they hire you to do some training or whatever it is. There's a guy out in Wichita, Kansas. His name is Chad Cox. This guy contacted me a number of years ago. They were looking for escape systems. So, I work with them. I help them, steer them to the options. And this guy's my friends to this day.
That's
I've got
good.
a picture of him hanging up in my office.
That's cool stuff, man.
We see each other at FDIC. I'm actually going out there in September. My class was accepted for the Wichita Hot program.
Great.
So I'll be going out there and I'll be hooking up with Chad and working with him again. He's a really good dude. They have a lot of good dudes out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're really aggressive. But that's just one example of many. We went to Beckley, West Virginia. Just a whole laundry list full of great people. And they're so into it. And it's like you look you're in your own little world here,
mm-hmm.
and you think that, wow, man, we're into it. But there's these little.
That's why I said
you step all over the place.
You step outside of your comfort zone a little bit, right? And you travel. You get to meet new people and see what it doesn't all end here. There's a big world out there people the same core values we have, just other parts of the world, right? Or other parts of the country. So I think it's neat that you're able to go out there, and it's a good opportunity for you to be able to do that, and not everyone is in that. Not everyone has that capability to do what you're doing.
Right.
So I think it's something that you have that most people don't, which is pretty cool. But I like the fact that you're able to bring it back, and that's what this is about, right? You're giving it back, so you're getting that information, but instead of just keeping it to yourself, right? You're now giving it out to others, which I think is super important today.
Right.
I think more of that needs to happen, more of that give back.
Yeah.
What you're doing, because you could just be here in your business and sell things, and it'd be fine. You have a business and you sell things. That's great. But not only do that, you give people what they need, equipment, and you give them options, which I liked. That was one of the things you told me. And then on top of that, now you have the training part of it too. So you're really able to capture them here, and really give them options and give them training, give them that give back.
Right.
When you started 32 years ago, people were helping you. Now you're helping others. I think that's huge, man. I like that you're doing that. So when you left Glendola, then you joined Company 4, and that was as a firefighter.
Right.
Have you had any ranks there?
Yeah, I went through all the ranks. I was lieutenant. I was captain for 5 years.
Okay.
And then I served as assistant chief, and then chief of the township. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about Neptune's dynamic. How's the company run itself? What's the demographics like? What's the town like?
So it's another busy place. To this, it's a fire load altogether has dropped, but
Right. Across the board.
Yeah, but there's four companies in Neptune.
Okay.
And then there's a paid division that works Monday through Friday. We're the downtown company.
Okay.
And it's an old firehouse, a lot of pride, a lot
Love
of old
that.
pictures on the wall.
I love that stuff, man.
You walk in and you just feel it. It's the captain there, Captain Joe Morrow, good friend of mine. He runs a really tight ship.
Good.
And it's it's you can just see the pride and just the way the place is kept, and the rigs, and Dan Harker's one of the lieutenants there. He's also one of the instructors here. Another guy who's just a hard charger, and he's won like several life-saving awards. So they're both legit dudes.
How do you
good friends of mine, and they're just you just want to be around them.
That's good. How do you go from being a chief in Glendola to picking up and starting all over again? Was it hard?
Well, I think that when you're chief and then you're not, that transition is difficult.
That's what I'm talking about.
And
then you got to put that black hat on now.
Yeah, when I was chief in Neptune in 2012, the end of that term was Hurricane Sandy. So here you are, at this major, catastrophic event for this whole region. Sure. And you're so engaged in the community, in leading a fire department, in planning. I put together a whole plan for the potential of what ended up happening. And then you see this process through, and then
back up a second. You said you put together a plan for what potentially could have happened. Did it happen?
Well, I put together a response plan for the department.
So tell me about that. When you did that, did you ever anticipate that this could come to fruition and that you would have to use this plan?
Well, I put several plans together during my term as chief. That's the way I am. I'm a planner. I like to be prepared. So I put together this plan, and it just talked about, staffing firehouses, certain responses, depending on flooding, and it was all contingent on things happening or not happening. And it's funny, one of the things that I put in there was the use of hard suction, because I think at the time we had 2 rigs out of the fleet that had hard suction, and I identified that as being a potential thing, which I don't know why I did it. It's just being prepared, I guess. And we ended up having a house explode on Tremont in the Shark River Hill section, and the water was all the way up to this house, and the only access that we had to water was dump the hard suction into the overflowing river, right, and use that as our water supply. So, it was a tragic event, but I had put that in the plan as a potential concern and need. So
it's just interesting when you're sitting down at a desk, right, and you're trying to prepare yourself for all these what if scenarios, and then when it comes to when it actually happens, and you're like, holy shit, man, I just put this together, and now I'm literally doing this.
Right.
That's just pretty crazy, man.
Yeah.
Because that, that happened, and everyone's like, you talk to a lot of people, and they say you can't prepare for that. You just can't prepare for that situation because it was so catastrophic. I mean, so many people lost everything during that event. So you're chief during all that. What was that like?
It was a lot. It was crazy. I mean, to some degree, the rules went out the window. I mean, you're driving on people's yards and trying to navigate around, and you're getting all these calls, all these requests. So I remember one request we had was people trapped in a house in Shark River, and we got as close as we could to the house, and a whole line of people are walking up from this house, and they're like up to just about their neck in water. It was just like crazy. And they explained to us that they were on an upper level, the second floor of their house, and they had to go under the water to get out the door.
Wow.
So it was just...
I heard so many stories like that.
Yeah, with all the experience and all the responses over the many years, for many of us, it was just things that we had never experienced before. So we just did your best. We're driving down highways the wrong way, and it's just, the rules went out the window, man.
It's chaos, organized chaos.
Yeah.
How did you, as chief, keep your morale up in your fire department at that time, with everything going on?
With the storm?
Yeah.
I don't think that was too much of an issue. I mean, a lot of the firehouses had their families in the firehouse. I mean, I know my firehouse, they brought all the families in. The families of just about every guy was in that firehouse, and they were there for however long it was, a week.
That's perfect, yeah.
Yeah, and so, the wives are cooking, and the kids are playing, and the guys are responding to calls, and so... In
a sense, it almost brought people together.
Yeah, yeah. Well, listen, Hurricane Sandy, you saw the best in people, so I think that just reverberated, to everything. People working, regular jobs, think about the gas station people,
sure.
With the lines down the street,
right.
People with gas cans, and so the firehouses, they pulled themselves together, and it was a very family-like atmosphere, probably for most of the firehouses.
Yeah.
So, and the guys were answering the calls, so which is incredibly admirable when you consider people having damages to their own homes,
right?
And having jobs and having work responsibilities, and yet they're still answering the calls.
Yeah, I think back of a couple people I know that they lost everything. I mean, literally everything, right. Where their house was completely underwater and everything was gone, and they had to walk away from that, and they're at the firehouse, and they're going to calls and they're helping other people, when knowing in the back of their mind that they don't have anything to go back to, and that amount of dedication and that amount of the respect I have for those people are just amazing. And I was fortunate not to be in that situation, but the people who were, it's amazing, really.
Right.
It says a lot about them as an individual, as a person, that you're able to do that, put everything aside and worry about everyone else.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of what we do, I would say, in general, but not to that extreme.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it was, like we said, it was something that nobody ever saw before, and prepared, not prepared. You can't, maybe you're prepared, but you're like mentally.
Right.
Especially if you lost your home, and
Absolutely.
One day you had your home and the next day you don't. It's like suffering a fire.
Absolutely.
So
yeah. That's got to be on your mind. In the
right.
midst of everything going on, that's still there, man.
Yeah.
You're going back to nothing. So.
Right.
So as chief, being involved in something like that, that's something to walk away from and always remember. You probably never forget that.
Yeah.
So how right after that you weren't chief anymore?
So after that, I had an opportunity with our township's Office of Emergency Management.
Okay.
So it was a really good segue for me to go from chief to that agency and to that position. I just enjoyed the managing emergencies, or being a part of the management component to an emergency.
Right.
I just felt like it was kind of, over the years I kind of developed a strong sense for those type of things. Or
well, you
abilities.
you said you always had to be prepared, and that's definitely an organization or a division, I should say, that has to be prepared
Right,
for everything
right.
and for the unknown.
Yeah. So I mean, I was a dispatcher for 15 years, so coordinating responses and I had that skill. I guess those years of doing that
Sure.
gave me certain skills. But after being chief and after going through that process, it was a really good segue for me. So when I joined there, or when I was accepted onto that, I was asked to handle our CERT team, to actually create a CERT team.
Okay. So you actually created it.
Well, we had one years ago, but then whatever happened, I'm not really sure. But we started another one from scratch.
Okay.
And I was also put to oversee the special operations team, which is a division of our OEM. So
Okay.
it's different technical rescue pieces.
Now, how many towns like that are there in New Jersey that do what you do?
As far as an OEM or as far as special operations?
Special operations and OEM.
As far as the state goes, I don't know. I mean, obviously you have Task Force 1, who's an incredible agency. In Monmouth County, we have Middletown. We have Asbury Park. We have Southwold does the structural collapse.
But I'm talking about OEM.
Oh, OEM, yeah. I don't really.
You're it, right? You only gave me time that's doing that?
In Neptune, we have a very, very active OEM. Mike Bascom is our coordinator. And just the vision that he's had over these many years that he's, been handling our OEM, just an incredible job. We have response units. We go to car accidents. We go, we manage the Answer Water Rescue Team, which is comprised of several towns.
Wow.
We handle the CERT. We have a mobile command center for helping them manage emergencies. So we do a lot of. We have a hazmat team, fairly active hazmat team. We were out in Marlboro.
And this is all under OEM?
All under OEM.
Wow. Yeah. So this is a pretty high-speed division, man.
Mike DeLeo handles our hazmat team.
Okay.
And the day that they had the two tankers collide out in Marlboro, we responded to that along with other hazmat teams. And at the same time, just prior to being dispatched to that, we were out in Oakhurst on a mutual aid call for an incident they had there.
Wow, so they're very active. It's
a very, very active place, a lot of dedicated guys. And
so you have a lot of volunteers that are on that as well?
Yes.
I'm assuming most of those people are cross-trained, right? Firefighters as well, EMTs that are on that team?
You have, there's a response component in OEM. And so they respond to, some of them are hazmat techs.
Okay.
Some of them respond to car accidents and handle the spills and things. But the fire and the OEM are two different organizations.
Right. I understand.
The guys aren't generally members of both.
Okay. Well, what about the technical rescue
But it's not
stuff?
that it couldn't be, but it just isn't.
And then you guys also do technical rescue?
Yeah, so the technical rescue, the special operations team, is comprised of members of all the agencies in Neptune: police, fire, EMS, and OEM.
You command that?
I'm in charge of that team, yeah.
Wow.
And I think we have about a dozen USAR trained guys. So the way we have it broken down is we have a leadership component, we have a search and rescue component, we have logistics, we have medical, and we have safety and planning.
Wow.
So
you're very active then. This OEM.
Well, I mean, the one thing we don't have is a lot of calls, but we had a drill this morning, and it was a simulated collapse. We got an acquired structure, and we actually collapsed the whole entire floor down with a person pinned underneath. And we gave the team, it was a scenario, but at the same time we gave them specific challenges to work on skills, but timed and
good.
Kind of steered a little bit. So from the time we started till the time they actually got the victim out was 2 hours and 16 minutes. Now, granted, it was slowed down a little bit because of some of the challenges that we kind of force-fed the drill for the purpose of building the skills.
Right.
But, when we do drills like that, we work on getting the members to perform in their component.
Right, because that's the time to fine-tune everything.
Right. We're not going to put a logs guy into search and rescue and, put a medical guy over here and there. we want everybody to stay in their lane
Right.
and
Work
to
on their
work
skill
within their
set.
component and
Right.
be truly, you know, able to handle those skills within their component, so that when we go to a real incident,
Yeah.
everybody knows what they're supposed to do, and they can you know, fully function and give us 1,000% and know that it's going to get done, you know.
So how long have you been involved in that? The OEM?
Since 2013.
Okay. And does this change things for you as far as like, you know, the fireground? I mean, this is something totally different for you, right? OEM?
Yeah, well, it's you know, I mean, I'm like kind of the tug of war guy right now, you know. It's one pulls, the other pulls, you know.
Right.
It's okay.
Well, that's what I mean.
Listen, I'm going to be 50 in a week, and you know, when I go to fires, when I have been going to fires the past however many years, I mean, you have to do things a little bit differently. You know, you're not 25, you know, where you could do so. I just found myself having to do things a little bit differently to maximize myself and make myself as, you know, functional and valuable to whatever I was doing. If I was the OV, okay, you know, I want to be able to perform that at a high level. So just little cheater things, you know, just the way you carry yourself, the way you carry the equipment, making sure your SCBA waist straps are cinched down. I like mine really tight. And guys are like, wow. But, you know, that's the way it's supposed to be worn. It takes the pressure off your shoulders, and, you know, after having that pack on for an hour, your shoulders aren't killing you, you know, those type of things. So I just found I had to do things a little bit differently to, you know, as I was getting older.
Do you like what you're doing in the OEM? Is it? I mean, from what it sounds like, you certainly have something to offer them, which is good.
Yeah, no, I like it. You know, I to be honest, you know, the first couple of years it was a transition, you know, but it's run really well. You know, you have a lot of really great support from my boss.
If you have that, you have half the problem.
It is
knocked
really
down.
half the battle.
Absolutely,
man. It really is half the battle, and it's just been a good fit for me. You know, with where I'm at now, with the experience and the things I've gone through. You know, each time, like when I was chief in Glendalough, and then when I was chief in Neptune, I just feel like I was much more prepared to be chief in Neptune in 2012 than I was in 1999 and 2000 as a younger guy. You know,
right? Because you have that experience behind you.
Yeah,
and life lessons too.
Yeah,
life
and it's
skills.
for myself. You know, for myself,
Right.
I just felt like I was better prepared, and I just was able to. When I pulled up, so I got sworn in as chief at noon, and at 3 o'clock we had a 2-alarm fire. So I got thrown to the wolves pretty much immediately, and it was fine.
It's literally trial by fire.
Right, and the guys got their asses handed to them. We had a couple guys that were on the first line that was stretched. They came out, and these guys like dropped. They were steaming, and they dropped to the ground. And I legitimately thought that they were having either a medical emergency or whatever.
Unresponsive. Yeah.
I mean, I even called I requested a paramedic unit. That's how much I thought, and it was just exhaustion. They just, like I said, they got their asses handed to them, and but I was prepared. You know, I just felt like that. You know, you get sworn in, you're the chief now, and 3 hours later you're going through this 2-alarm fire. And I just felt, you know, and that was the tone for the year. I mean, I pulled up to a fire, I just handled it, and I just felt so prepared.
Good.
I would think that people would agree, maybe not, but
That's
for
good.
myself, I felt prepared, and you know, again, I tried to do as good a job as I could do. But
that's great.
we had a lot of fires that year, and you know, the guys really worked and did a great job.
So that spawned you into training, and then that's how this became, right? So tell me a little bit about how this all came about. All hands.
Well, I mean, I was a training officer in 1993,
right?
And
that was in Glendalough.
That was in Glendalough, and I went. I took the. You know, I became a New Jersey State Level 2 instructor, so I went through the progression of having the legitimacy of those things for myself. And I just was always involved in training. I just kind of progressed. It started probably as, setting up drills and doing the lower level things. And then just setting up larger drills. And I just really enjoyed it. I got a lot of satisfaction out of doing it. People seemed to react to the training sessions that I was either organizing or preparing. They seemed to react pretty well to it. So it just kind of grew, And then after I was done being chief, I set up all hands. And maybe 5 years into all hands, we started tinkering around with some. We weren't offering it ourselves, but we were kind of subcontracting it out. So I started to meet other people. I met, Jim Murray, who's a captain in Rescue 5 in Staten Island, and just another one of those really smart, great guy, but great fireman.
Amazing and, resource, right?
Yeah, and he taught me a lot about the training, and I just kind of followed his lead and watched what he did and learned a lot from a guy like that, and along from the other guys that I mentioned earlier.
Right.
I partnered up, or not partnered up, but became friendly with guys like Dan Dorenzo from Safety and Survival Training, and Aaron Heller, who you had on, Mark Gregory from PL Vulcan. He's the captain at 176.
I just listened to him at Station 55 for that seminar.
He was
phenomenal,
yeah.
Man. He was phenomenal.
Yeah, and so these companies and these guys, and you just you kind of work with them, you see what they do, and it's just you just kind of share that stuff. It's you try to put out a good product. You see the other guys putting out these good products, and so I guess to sum it up, I just always try to put myself with these good people, and learn from them, and listen and
surround yourself with like-minded people.
Right. We did a class one time, and I watched this instructor. We were doing a firefighter survival class I think in Ocean County actually, and we were doing the Nance drill, and I watched this instructor. I can't remember his name, but I watched this instructor kind of describe or talk about John Nance, who was killed in 1987 in Columbus, Ohio, and he told the story. Just told the story. Wasn't reading from anything. Just told the story about how John fell through the floor and how he was piling up boxes, and he was working towards his own rescue. He was communicating with the guys, and he was just explaining it. And then he gave a 5-minute explanation of who John Nance was and what he went through. And then we did the skill. And I'm like, man, that is a home run right there, because you're honoring this guy, who died, and now we're delivering techniques. He died, so we're honoring him.
Yeah, it puts so much different look on the training,
and it just gives
makes it personal.
It gives the students like we're not just doing this because like some dude
in
made
a
up
book.
You just figured out that a piece of rope put a certain way can give you a mechanical advantage. So it's just an example. You watch these guys deliver the content and do it in their own way, and then you develop your way.
Right.
And listen, we just finished up a class here, 24-hour RIT class, and before we started today, I was looking on social media, and the guy's like, "Hey, great job, thank you," and it's just great stuff. We try to put out a good product, and the instructors that we have, we all work together. So I take a lot from other people and try to develop my own delivery and all that. And
what's your proudest moment from all hands? What would you say your proudest moment's been so far with everything you've put out, everything you've give to people? What is it?
I would just say the satisfaction of communicating with a student who went through a program and said, "Hey, listen, man, I really appreciate it," or I either appreciate it or you work with a student. I'll give you a story. We did a class up in Cranford, New Jersey, and they had a couple of years ago. They had a student who they wanted to get through bailout, but for whatever reason, there was they needed special attention to this one student. So we were delivering the class. So I went up there and I personally did it for this one guy. And he was a super kid. And I just took my time with him, and we just went through the progressions. And he was great. And then I got an email from the battalion chief, who's my contact there, and he's like, Don, thank you so much. I really, and so that's the kind of stuff that I get satisfaction of, you know.
That's awesome.
We'll take the time. We'll take the time to work with the student, you know. And when we bring instructors in, they got to be the right guy, you know. We deal with volunteer, we deal with career, and, you know, we need to have those guys that's sensitive to both. And you know, sometimes you got to be a little stern with whatever. Like, listen, we're doing the RIT scenarios today. You know, we're not doing ceramics. You know, we're not doing basket weaving. And so
that's not the time to screw around.
Sometimes,
it's not the time to screw around. It's just important. It's important stuff.
But it's also important to identify a student who requires that extra attention and maybe a little bit of sensitivity or what. I mean, listen, this is the way of the world today.
Yeah.
But
there's certainly a different time.
Right. But I was showing you before that we have, you know, our for our bailout classes, we have our building out there with 2 windows, and then we have a smaller prop. So just as an example, that we have a student who struggles, we can pull them aside and we can work with them one-on-one and just give them that personal touch and let them overcome that, you know, whether it be fear or whether it just be intimidation or whatever. So, you know, my proudest moment is to get that email or that text or that phone call and saying, dude, thank you, man. There was no way I was jumping out that window, you know.
Right.
Until you showed me, like, doing it this way or thinking about it a certain way, or
so that's your reward then.
It is truly a reward.
Yeah, that's the reward from what you're doing.
And you know, the bailout, we do a lot of that, but you know, we honor. We have a banner hanging up for Lieutenant Joey DiBernardo, you know, and you know, I know Chief Bernardo, his dad, and you know, that banner hangs out. So every student that bails out one of those 2 windows, that's the first thing they see when they come out that window.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned that, because when I was upstairs and I was looking out the window, that is the first thing I saw, and it immediately hit me like, that's why this is happening. Like, there's a meaning, there's a reason behind this. It's not just training; it's for him.
Yep. And every bailout class we do, we show that Black Sunday video that Jeff Cool narrates.
Yep.
And you know, again, it's we're just trying to honor guys, and we're trying to do the right thing, and we're trying to support guys being safe and working hard, and you know, the brotherhood in general. You know,
you're definitely accomplishing that, in my opinion. This is all top speed stuff, man. Everything you showed me today, I look around and you got to figure it out here, bro. You're doing something good here, man. You really are. You're making a difference, which is important.
I appreciate that.
So before I let you off the hot seat here, you know, it was good. We talked about the business. We talked about what you're doing in training. One of the things I saw in there, right, in the training room, was a movie theater. Tell me about that. How did you end up at a movie theater?
All right. Well, it's actually a theater for plays.
Okay.
So I got a call from a guy named Jimmy Harris, and he worked at the Lyric Theater, and initially I just misunderstood him. I thought he was looking for bailout systems, but he was actually looking for rope rescue training.
Okay.
So local one in Manhattan.
Can we do that?
Yeah, right. Yeah. I think I might know a guy. So the local there wanted to provide some training to the stagehands.
Pretty progressive, wouldn't you say? First, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, I didn't know much about those guys, so I don't know what training they get, what they don't get.
Well, I mean, me being a layperson looking at that situation, I think something happens, you just call the fire department.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think it's pretty progressive that they want that type of training, being that they're not calling, like, you know, of course they're going to call the fire department, but they're doing something beforehand. I think that's pretty noble.
Right. So, you know, I figuring that if they were up on a catwalk with another guy and maybe he tripped and fell or had a medical emergency or any number of things that could go wrong, that if a guy was in close proximity to them, they could take some action to at least start the process of helping or
Right.
effectively saving his life. So we've done a 2-day class in several theaters there, including the Lyric Theater was the first one we did. We did a class at Lincoln Center. We did the Ed Sullivan Theater was the last one that we've done. That was about a year ago.
So when you started this, did you ever think you'd be doing that?
No, I mean, listen, sometimes we get requests for things that are, sometimes we get requests that are things that are outside our wheelhouse, and we'll just pass them off. But
I respect that.
Yeah. Like Mark Gregory's a good example of that. We get calls for Man versus Machine, and Mark does just, you can't hit second to none. He does a great job with that, teaching it all over the country. I think he was in Japan actually doing it.
Wow.
Last year. But anyway, so I never thought we'd be doing a class for the local and in Manhattan.
It's pretty neat, and
it was really a cool project.
Yeah, and that's what's cool about what you're doing here. It's it's opened up all these new doors for you, all these new opportunities. You probably would never have, like, you picture yourself in a theater in Manhattan. It's pretty neat.
Yeah.
So, last thing I'll ask you, Chief, and that is, with everything going on right now, the onus on PTS and PTSD awareness, which I think it's good that everyone's starting to talk about these things now. Was there anything in your career or at the time you've had? I mean, 32 years is a long time, bro. I mean, you obviously were involved in things that you saw. Obviously, you were things that have maybe affected you throughout the years. What has been your way of combating those things and moving on and being able to get back on that truck and being able to get back in the game and keep your helmet on and all that kind of thing? Was there anything for you can offer to anyone? Things that you did?
I never really felt affected by some of the things I've seen. I think that the way that we're honoring these guys that have died, and looking and dissecting some of those things, I think that has more. That for me is something I look at more than reflecting back on bad things I've seen. I mean, I honestly, that's how I look at things. I look at things as just, promoting with whether it be guys that are in my rig or whatever, just promoting that, everybody know what we're doing. Is everybody ready and everybody prepared? And quite honestly, I don't have, in my roles now, I don't have as much exposure to those type of things as I did before. But I remember being a boss sitting in the officer seat, turning around. Everybody know what you're doing. Everybody ready, and making so preparation and honoring the guys who have died, and taking those things. And so I look at those things more than I can say that I'm affected by a lot of those other things.
I like to ask those questions to guys like you that are doing training, that have this huge emphasis on training, and I always like to ask those questions because was it something that happened throughout your time that you saw, what, never again, like no matter what happens, never again, because I'm going to work on doing this so it doesn't happen again. I'm going to try to train so that doesn't happen again, or things you've seen or heard, like the lieutenant, right? Nance, all these things that are happening, we're honoring them by this training so it doesn't happen again. If we can do that, we're truly honoring them if it doesn't happen again to someone else. So I was always curious, and that's why I always ask guys like you that are involved in these training companies, was there something that prompted you to be so endeared in training?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I would rather tell the story of a line of duty death that was thoroughly investigated and gives us back either techniques or recommendations or what have you, than I would be to tell a war story or any of those things. I mean,
that's great.
And getting back to talking about bringing instructors on, those are the kind of things that we look for. I want a guy that buys into our program and the way that we do it, and I honoring those guys, and to me is we do our rapid intervention class, and we take 4 line of duty deaths, the same 4 ones every time. It's Mark Langvert, Captain Fowler from Queens, John Nance, and from Phoenix, from Brett Tarver. Those are the 4 line of duty deaths, and the students get a handout with their story on there. We have a written test on it. We run videos on those events. So, and we do the same. We talk about the Hackensack fire in 1988.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
The dealership fire.
yeah, I mean these are lessons that these young guys have to have some knowledge of and just understand that. Listen, I do a situational awareness class, and bad things happen in an instant, and it doesn't discriminate.
No.
You can be the smartest firefighter, you could be the best firefighter, and bad things happen. And you look at the guys who've had to bail out, and you know, they had seconds to act. You know, seconds to make a decision, whether it be to jump out of a window, you know, whether it be with or without a ballot system. You know, there's a common threat, and you have seconds to make a decision. So, you know, just identifying that and having these guys put themselves in a position for survivability. You know, that's what we try to do and we try to promote.
If you could thank somebody today, right, and looking back at all your time as a firefighter, if you could thank that, and I don't want to say that one person because some people, you know, will say there's so many people, but is there that one person that you could thank or someone that comes to mind?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, listen, I talk about my parents. You know, my parents have always been very supportive. You know, I think that when you had asked about some photographs, I sent you a picture of me with my parents. So, my parents have certainly been very supportive, and you know, they're incredible, 2 incredible people. But I've always tried to surround myself with good people and smart people, and I mentioned a lot of names in this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
some good names, man.
Yeah,
real good
some
names.
people that I incredibly highly respect.
Good.
You know, Frank Suffin, one of my best friends. You know, he's a guy that I look up to, and he's covering my duty crew right now.
Thanks, Frank. Thanks for helping us out.
You know, one of my best friends. He's a guy that I look up to. But
good.
You know,
good stuff, man.
My parents are, you know, probably right up there as number 1 and number 2. Or actually, 1A and 1B.
Well, Chief, listen, man, I really appreciate you coming on the show. It was an honor to have you. I appreciate you showing me some of the digs. This was a cool place, and again, you know, I went to Neptune City, something different, so I like it. Thanks
good.
again, man.
Okay.
I appreciate it, brother. Before you go, I got some gifts for you. So, anybody who watches this show knows Sal. He sounds like a celebrity now. Sal's from Eagle Emblems and Graphics. You know, all his FDNY tees, company tees and all, they all come from Sal. So he's out of Staten Island. So this is your patch.
Great.
So every one of my guests get one of those awesome patches. So, you know, hopefully you'll hang that in your office. So you got a place for that.
Sweet. Well, I got a few things for you as well.
Oh, man,
so
nice.
I have a couple of all hands decals.
Look at that.
I got a couple of patches from
cool.
agencies.
Oh, so this is your company patch.
Yeah.
That's awesome patch, man. I like it. And then one from Neptune Rescue, Special Operations. That's awesome, man. Thank you.
And a shirt for you.
Sweet. So I got all kinds of goodies. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it, bro. And then one thing I always like to talk about is, and listen, you always need decals for your lid, man. Everyone needs decals.
Sounds good.
Definitely. But this organization, I know John talked to you about it a little bit too, but Next Rung, incredible organization. I'm wearing their hat right now also. But Next Rung is what we were talking about before, right? So PTSD and PTS within the fire service, and you know, bad things happen to good people, right? So this organization is nonprofit, and what I ask you to do is, if you could just leave this card at your fire department and just post this on your members' wall or something,
sure.
Wherever people can see it. But it's got a nice message in here too. But it really gives some resources and some availability. So if anybody ever has to pick up the phone, it's 100% confidential, and no one needs to know. They call the number, and it just sits in your firehouse. So if you be so kind to keep that in your house, I'd appreciate it. All right?
Absolutely.
All right, thanks again, Chief. All right, so this was episode 17 here in Neptune City at All Hands. Special thing coming at you. Not going to tell you exactly what it is, but you'll be seeing it soon. So look for that. And again, Chief, I appreciate it very much, man. I'm looking forward to seeing even more good things from you.
Thank you.
And make sure you keep me in mind if something cool happens and you want to showcase it. By all means, call back. We'll be back. All right. Look out for episode 18 that's coming at you real soon. We just updated our website, so make sure you check that out. It's actually a website from like 2019 now. It doesn't have that construction guy walking past it anymore. And then our Instagram, we're trying to keep that pretty live and active. I can actually smell Sahatchin in here. Was he in here?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Just kidding. So look out for episode 18 that's coming out real soon. All right, stay safe, be careful, and look out for each other.